Okay, the meeting is now streaming live. Um, Let me share the agenda. Hi, Pritesh. Could you help to check whether Ming will join or not?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I pinned him today, but he did not confirm because we have a issue that he has some comments and also fresh comments. So I would like to uh, discuss it during the meeting with him together.
I'm not sure. I can try pinging him, but I'm not sure whether he will join or not.
Okay. I'm now sharing the screen for the agenda. Here's my screen.
Yep.
Um, okay. So let's get started. So here is the agenda items that I collected. The first item is about the timestamping feature. We have one issue we need to address it in this meeting so that we can move on. The second one is about the notation 1.2 scope changes. So Pradesh will share some information. The last one is a small item, actually asking maintenance, especially maintenance um, in the GitHub repo, the governance maintenance to vote for this issue. So if you did not vote for this issue, please take your action as soon as you can. Um, I would still want to wait for Mingling, so I think we can start with the second one first.
Can we actually start with that? If a million is required, I can probably ping him again. He seems to be offline right now.
Okay, so you think we can still start
Yeah,
with the
we can
first one?
revisit that. Yeah.
Okay. Um, so the first one for the first topic, the TSP client Go, the library, I just checked the status. The two PRs were approved and merged. Um, so I think the proposal is that we can currently we have the major PRs all the major PRs merged in the new repository and TSP client Go. So I think we can kick off a first 0.1.0 release for TSP client Go. Um, so this is the proposal. Anyone has any comments, questions? And this 0.1.0 release can be used for the notation core Go for the beta 1 release, for the 1.2.0 beta 1 release. Any comments? Yeah, and actually this is the first release of this repository that we introduced several months ago. I think this is also a good a small achievement. So thanks for the community, especially the maintainers for TSP Client Go repository. So with that, Patrick, could you help to create PRs for this release, TSP Client Go 0.1.0 release?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Then let's discuss on the specification issue. Yeah, so this issue actually was created during the time when we reviewed the timestamping spec related changes. So, uh, so I think most participants in this meeting have the background, so I will skip it. So let's jump right direct to the comments that Ming added last week. So originally we would like to, yeah, Toddy, please.
Actually, just for the record, can we once again go through the scenario and what are the benefits of the two approaches? If we can summarize it with a couple of words.
Okay. Um, I think the scenario is that in some cases, user, for example, user may not want to have outbound messages during signature verification. However, for the timestamping revocation check, we need to initiate um, connections to external server, for example, timestamping server. So um, um, in some cases, customer want to avoid customer only want to have completely offline signature verification. So they want to have option that they can skip timestamp revocation check.
And the two options that we have is one is to introduce a level field under signature verification, which is skip timestamp revocation check. And the other option is to have, I'm looking at the examples that Patrick put, is to have the override level for the level of verification.
Yeah. So,
So
but yeah.
can we? So what is the benefit of the first, and what is the benefit of the second?
I can say first, and later Patrick and Pradesh, you can comment. So for the first option, it is about to introduce a field on the signature verification. With this option, we do not add any new signature validation on the first level. So, so this option will be very straightforward for user um, to set based on their needs and the current trust policy structure. If you remember that table with 5 signature validations, we do not introduce any changes. Yeah, this is for the first option, and the first option do not have any dependencies on other signature validation, and it is straightforward and simple.
And the second?
The second one, my understanding is that we will introduce a new signature validation on the first level called timestamp revocation check. And under this level, we will have different options like.
I thought that is the first option.
Okay, so let me take that.
No.
Okay. So right now we have a table. Like, can you open a table? I can start from there.
Yeah, let me do that. Just a second.
So right now in our table, we define what all validations we perform on signature, which includes integrity, authenticity, timestamping, and authentic timestamp, expiry, and revocation check. Right now, user can go and toggle. So, and we have defined a couple of presets called strict, permissive, audit, and skip. These presets have preset value of these validations, so that if you don't really care about it, you can just use strict permissive and audit. If you care about it, you can go and audit. You can go and override each one of them. So the second option, I will start with second and then we'll go to first because we're talking about table. So what we are saying is split the authentic timestamp into two parts. One, just keep the authentic timestamp where we perform integrity, authenticity, and authenticity of the signature. As have a new field called authentic timestamp revocation. Just like revocation check, we'll have a timestamp revocation check, which user can set individually. Like they can set the timestamp revocation to enforce, log, skip, whatever they want there. That's the second option. In first option, what we are saying.
Pritesh, just to confirm that I understand which one is the first or the second, because the issue makes it very unclear. The second is where we introduce the override section. Is that correct?
Yes, that's the second one. Yes, that's the second one.
And in the override, I can have like timestamp revocation check skip.
Yes.
Okay.
You can
and the
override
first
it to
option
skip.
is to just have this timestamp revocation check, skip
as a Boolean
timestamp
flag.
revocation check under the signature verification without the whole override section.
Yes.
Why can't we have a separate level of signature verification? That is what I am not clear. Just add another row in this table that he is just putting on the table, on the screen. Why can't we do that?
What will they do? Do you mean row or column?
The row will be called skip TS or something like this.
Oh, so the thing is, it becomes really rigid because each one of them is configurable. So if we add a new column, you can achieve much more configuration with just adding a preset like strict or permissive.
So if the use case is only to not make a separate kind of call.
Yes.
First of all, what bothers me with both proposals is that they are kind of complicating even more our complicated policy. The first option, which is with the override, seems to me it's over design of the way with too much control. The other option, which is just adding the new field, seems a little bit kind of. Next time we'll come up with similar problem, we'll just add another field. And I kind of don't see the value. And again, it is like level of verification that we are trying to define. So for me, the most compatible option and also extendable is just to add additional enumeration to the current levels. I'm not sure what are the benefits of these two other proposals. Once again, sorry, I'm not understanding what's the benefit.
Yeah. So let's start with your approach. If we add a new level, we will possibly need to add multiple levels like strict skip timestamp revocation, permissive skip timestamp revocation, audit skip timestamp revocation, right? So it won't be just one row. It would be at least 3 rows you will need to add.
Okay.
Which further complicates it.
Mm-hmm.
Because now you are saying, okay, apart from knowing high level verification levels, we are almost doubling our verification levels. So it introduces further complexity even for the user who just want to get started and want to use it in whatever mode, permissive mode if they want to.
Yeah, but it is a little bit more clear than adding those overrides or adding. Yeah.
For example, the user as getting started, I don't even care what timestamp is, but now I need to go and understand timestamp, right? If I just look at the level, as you suggested, I might not be timestamping right now, so I don't even care what it is. I just care about strict permissive and yeah, fine with it. But now I need to go and understand it. But if we go other way around, if we add a new column, if you don't really care about, if you don't want fine-grained controls, you can just omit them. If you just really care about, okay, it's permissive, I want to just, looks good to me, fine, I'm getting authenticity, everything is getting logged, I don't care about it, I can just use permission and I don't even need to go and look into the details of it unless.
Yeah, here is my question for you. Even if we, like you're saying, the user doesn't need to care, but let's say if I go and create a policy and put a level strict and don't add the override, I still need to, actually, it will fail because it will try to enforce the timestamp, which means that as a user, I need to know what timestamp is. And I need to go and figure out now that it's not just different level, I need to completely change my policy. So I'm not sure that the argument that the user doesn't need to know what timestamp is valid in this case.
No, it's more about getting started use case, not once you're deploying it to production. If you're trying it out, you don't even need to care, right? You just provide, it's like if I'm just trying to see what notation does, I just put it strict, it's simple, things get done. But now you're giving me 4 choices. Out of 4, you need to choose one right now, and now out of 7, I need to choose one.
I'm still not following. So if I put strict level, and if I don't timestamp, that will pass, right?
If you put strict and if you don't have a specified TSA, it will pass.
Yeah. So if I put strict and I specify TSA and my signature has timestamp, it will pass.
Yes. But now what is strict and timestamp strict?
So, like, if I want to do strict without timestamp, I can do strict skip timestamp as a level, right? And I need to know that whether I just write a separate level or I understand that there is a strict level without timestamp, or whether I need to go and figure out that the whole policy needs to have a completely new section called override timestamp revocation check skip. For me, the first is much simpler than to understand for the user than the second one.
Then the same use case will arrive. I agree there, but the same use case will arrive for revocation. Why don't we have a preset called strict revocation skip? The thing is, like, we want to keep it simple. If we keep on adding these options of signature verification levels, it will become complicated, right?
Well, either we add the options to the levels, or we add additional section with the options, which is the more complicated case from user point of view. That's what I'm arguing.
Either case, you need to add somewhere. I agree there. But in my opinion, keeping the high level simple and letting them override is at least consistent with other levels. Like right now, you can do it for expiry or revocation check. At least it's consistent there.
So what you're saying, we already have the override section for.
Yes.
Okay. And the other option that we are discussing, okay, I understand why we went with the override part. And the other option is to not have the override, to have just a field saying skip timestamp revocation check. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so in this case, if we all want to do all these, let's say, cases, is that field enough, or do we need to create more fields?
No, I think the field is enough.
So there's a difference between the implication. What we are saying is authentic timestamp will control the behavior, and then after authentic timestamp, that field will take the precedence, something like that, right?
What do you mean it will control the behavior? Coming back to, let's say,
so it would be, let's say, if your authentic timestamp is enforced and you mark it as a skip. Okay, I don't know that. Sorry, I will take back my words. Yeah, I don't know.
Could you open the PR06 in the spec?
Okay, just a second.
I'll paste it in the chat.
Yeah, let me paste it. Oops.
The other question that I have is why it is called timestamp revocation check if I just don't want to check the timestamp? Because the original scenario that Yi mentioned is that we just want to skip the timestamp verification so we don't make outbound call for. Seems confusing as a name to me.
So the goal here is to just only skip the timestamps revocation check. It's not about skipping timestamp itself. We still check the timestamp, but we just skip the timestamp revocation check. That's the goal.
Okay, we check the timestamp, but okay.
Yeah. So actually, it's about check the timestamp signature, and it is under the this validation authentic timestamp. And during checking the timestamp signature, we need to basically do the similar thing to check to validate the signature, for example, for the container images. So we need also to perform the revocation check. But in this scenario, user do not want to have outbound messages. Yeah, so they want to skip the timestamp revocation check.
So in the PR, for adding a new column, it's going to be a breaking change. So based on our last community meeting discussion, since authentic timestamp is an overall switch to timestamping, this following example will be a breaking change if we bring in the new timestamp revocation check column. So before upgrading notation, this is a valid trust policy. After upgrading notation, this won't work because authentic timestamp is override to log. And by default, the timestamp revocation check column is enforced. This makes the trust policy invalidated.
Sorry, just to clear that, if it becomes a top level field, not the subfield, it governs the revocation itself, right? It's not governed by authentic timestamp.
Yi, can you open this this link? I've pasted it in the chat. So last time we discussed that we will have two tables. The new table is about the relationship between authentic timestamp and timestamp revocation check columns. So there are some cases that the combination of the values of these two fields will make the trust policy invalidate. Can you scroll down? Scroll down, scroll down. There's a new table. Yes, this one. So based on our last discussion, if authentic timestamp is logged, timestamp revocation check value must be logged or skipped. It cannot be enforced. Right, that based on our last discussion last week. So if we go back to the example I pasted there, this is a valid trust policy. So this is a valid trust policy at this moment. But once we add a new column and upgrade notation, this will become an invalid trust policy, right?
Why? We are saying authentic timestamp except revocation part is logged and revocation is enforced. For example, if you have configured the TSA as wrong, it would be logged, but if the revocation of that certificate, if the certificate is revoked, it will fail.
Can you show the table again? Can you show the table again? So do you, Pritesh, do you agree with this table?
Not really. I mean, I was thinking more about it's same to the current scenario, the present scenario which we have. For example, a signature can have authenticity as logged and revocation as enforced. It's similar to that. Authentic timestamp is marked as enforced, which means we want to verify signature and everything, but it's logged. So like if your authentic timestamp is logged, which is fine. I don't want to verify it's from particular TSA, but I want to make sure it's not revoked.
Okay, so this is what you are saying is kind of different from what you just said last week, because
Yes.
in last week, I remember that if authentic timestamp is logged, the whole timestamping can be failed, but the verification can continue. In that case, if timestamp revocation check is set to enforced, that means if revocation check failed in timestamp because it's enforced, the whole verification should be failed. So
Yes,
it seems that this combination is actually conflicted.
Yes, because last week we were talking about timestamp revocation as a subfield, but when you put in the table, it's not a subfield, it's a part of the verification. So last week the discussion was with the
Let me
option
ask
one.
this. Let me ask you this. So suppose authentic timestamp is logged and timestamp revocation check is enforced. What would happen?
It was the same thing which happens right now with authenticity as logged and revocation as enforced. So we have a current precedence for that.
No, because it's different. Because
Why?
currently the authenticity and revocation columns, they are independent.
And we will
But
make them independent
timestamp
for this
revocation
use
check is
case.
a substep of authentic timestamp. These two columns are not independent.
We will make the other thing.
Different.
Can we make them independent? If we make them independent, it will. And right now we don't support timestamp, so we can go and make the change.
So semantically, how would they be independent? Because authentic timestamp is the overall switch of the whole
We are
timestamp
splitting revocation out
verification.
of it. The proposal is split the revocation out of it. Don't consider part of the revocation as part of that. It's similar to how signature verification we have defined different validations. So we are not talking about adding it as a sub level of that table. It's an individual level. So if you see, okay, can you share this one? So right now it's an individual column, not a sub level.
Pritesh, I think what Patrick is saying that the table that he was showing, they are not independent. That authentic timestamp and the timestamp revocation check should be considered together. Is that correct, Patrick?
Yes. So how could they be independent? I mean,
yeah. And that is what the column, if you go to the other table, which is in the spec, these two columns represent that column in the table, which is the authentic timestamp.
I think there's one more change which is made by Patrick itself. I have just shared the link. It says in that change, it says it as an individual column. If you scroll up, it says as an individual column, not as a sub-column. Further up, whether it is a table.
Yes, they are individual columns, but semantically they are not. Semantically, timestamp revocation is a part of authentic timestamp.
Can we split it? That's what we are saying. Can we split it? Then it makes more sense.
If we split it, then we have multiple places to configure the same timestamp.
If
I'm
we have
not
a use
sure
case, yes. If we have a use case, we can. I'm not saying denying it. If we have a use case to support it.
If we want to split it, then why not just adding a new subfield like the like the proposal of option one, right?
The thing is,
You are
discoverability
splitting the
is the
columns.
problem. With the option one, discoverability is the problem. Right now, we are communicating to the users is that in trust policy, signature verification levels define everything on how your signature verification behaves. Now we are saying there are flags outside the policy which defines it. And in my opinion, we should set anything outside that signature verification level only for special cases. Because it's like we'll have to, in future, if we add one more kind of verification, we'll have to add a new level outside that policy, which is bad idea because discoverability becomes a problem. Now you have one-off flags. How many one-off flags you can have?
So if authentic timestamp is marked as skip, right? The whole timestamp verification will be skipped. Is that correct?
I don't
And
see
the user would expect the
skip,
timestamp to be skipped.
So this document doesn't have value for skip authentic
Okay,
timestamp.
so it's logged. So if authentic timestamp is logged, the user would expect any failure during timestamp verification will not fill the whole verification. But if there is another column called timestamp revocation, if that is set to enforced, and because it's an independent column, if that failed, it will fill the verification workflow. But the user was expecting the timestamp verification failure should not fill the verification workflow because it was set to log. It seems confusing to me.
I agree with that statement.
Yeah.
I find it confusing too. And it's much more complex, like Pritesh, than having some value in the level. Now the permutations of those combinations becomes very hard to configure.
It's similar to signature, right? If you have authenticity as skipped and revocation as enforced, it will fail. So I'm considering timestamp as another signature, as a counter signature of that. It's basically another signature on the same data, roughly. So if that authenticity is set to authentic timestamp, yes, there might be clarity in the wording. We can do it or probably not. Actually, revocation is a separate aspect from the verification here, or validation, basically. So right now we don't have a use case for integrity, authenticity, and there's no thing called expiring authentic timestamp. Only revocation is a different aspect here, and authenticity and integrity combined. That's the reason we only have a revocation as a separate field. For example, if you don't care which TSA it's from, but you want to check the revocation for that, yes, you can probably do it.
Authenticity and the revocation, those two combinations are different combination of authentic timestamp and timestamp revocation. So authenticity is basically saying that if the trust store has the trusted cert. And the revocation is saying that if any cert in this cert chain is revoked, right?
Yes.
Authentic timestamp is not authenticity. Authentic timestamp is the overall switch for timestamp verification, but authenticity is not the overall switch for the whole verification workflow.
So we're saying is, can we split that to different switches because we have a use case for the different modes there.
I'm guessing that we shouldn't compare these two combinations as one scenario because Again, timestamp revocation is a substep of authentic timestamp, but revocation is not a substep of authenticity. So I don't think we can compare them.
Okay, even in revoking authentic timestamp, you have integrity, you're validating authenticity, you're validating revocation, right? You are still performing 3 steps. We haven't defined it in trust policy, right? We are still doing all the 3 steps in the code. Is that correct?
Yes.
We are checking the authenticity, integrity of the timestamp. We are checking authenticity in the trust policy, whether trust user has defined it or not, and we are doing revocation. So in code, we are actually doing that. In practical, we will do the checks. It's just that we haven't surfaced it here because we didn't thought about it when we designed it. Right now, since we don't support timestamp till now, we're adding a support, we can split the authentic timestamp into 2 different steps. And give the user the control they need. Which also suffice the use case where user can do authenticity, skip and revocation as true. I trust all the TSAs, I don't care, which we allow right now in our trust policy. I'm not debating whether it's the right or wrong combination. Right now we say you can trust any CA, but we can go and check for the revocation. And if it's revoked, we will stop the verification, we'll fail the verification. Same thing you can do with timestamp. Get a timestamp for any CA, it's revoked, we'll stop it. It allows you to do all the combinations, not advocating for any combination here, but it opens the door for that.
I'm not convinced. I think a substep is a substep. You cannot pull out it to a top level and make it independent with the overall switch.
Why?
Because it's confusing. If authentic timestamp is set log and timestamp revocation is set enforced, I don't think that's gonna. It's confusing to me.
Will rewording that flag help there from something from authentic? I'm not sure if we want to do alias there, but we can do an alias. If that's the only thing which is confusing is the naming.
If we have new use case in the future, like user want to configure the authenticity of timestamp, do we have a new column?
They can right now, right?
So that means we will have more and more columns in the future.
No, we don't, because you cannot override integrity, which is still the use case. That's why the authenticity. Sorry, what? Can you repeat that?
If user want to configure timestamp authenticity or timestamp expiry.
If we have a use case, probably yes. There can be a use case for expiry because timestamp PTSs are 10 years, which is I don't have a use case. If yes, probably yes.
So
because instead of adding a new flag for everything here, it becomes more visible and more controllable.
So instead of adding a new subfield, we add new columns to the table.
Yeah. Yes. For example, if you provide a use case where you have authenticity, you want to control it, you probably want to have a logged enforced for it, right?
Suppose
and
we
skip
have
for it.
Suppose we have 2 or 3 timestamp columns. Every of them are setting in different levels, like enforce, log, skip, and authentic timestamp itself is set as logged. It's even more confusing.
Unless you can provide a better solution than flag, yes. And if we have a use case for supporting it, then probably yes.
Yeah,
But again, it depends upon the use case to use case.
Yes, I will propose whenever there's a new use case, we add a new subfield and use the authentic
Again,
timestamp
not
as the only
advocating for
column.
it. For example, for previous use case where the revocation didn't fit in the column here, we went with a sys flag there, right? True and false. Always verify timestamp. We went with a flag because it doesn't fit in this use case.
We already have such subfield. It's called verify timestamp that we
Yes,
have.
because it didn't fit in here. That's why we went there. It was fine to add it there because it doesn't fit in there. So my idea was we can try to fit it in the this table because it becomes one-stop shop for everything. User can go and look into it if they want to. And if they don't, then if it doesn't fit in here, we can add a new flag like that, which we added for always verify timestamp or only on expiry.
Toddy, please.
Yeah, so Pritesh and Patrick, just like this conversation and the previous conversations make me think that this will be very complex for the user to really figure out how to do. I kind of agree with what Feynman pasted in the chat that like if every time I need to go and figure out in the spec and try to figure out what is the right combination, the tool will not be very usable to the users, right? So we need to make sure that the tool protects the users from wrong actually configuration, because if we let the user to configure the tool wrong, they will configure it in the most insecure way because it will be hard for them to figure out what are the right combinations. The more combinations we allow them to do, the harder it will be to actually configure it. So I really think we need to make sure that such combinations, like for example, the option for the user to, let's say, configure lock and enforce, which will result in actually failing that and the user not understanding, we should protect the user from such type of errors. And adding additional field, which is independent from the previous one, I don't think that this is a good option from usability point of view. Can we, like, I do not see an option where we really describe the use cases, and it seems that we are now discussing what will happen if we are set on this design, but we are not looking at what are the real use cases, what do we exactly want to enforce and lock and skip, and start from there. And maybe the options will be much easier to figure out. It seems that we are starting backwards from the design that we believe is the right design, but now it seems that that ends up in very unfriendly behavior for the users. That's kind of my 2 cents. For me, like the more complex we make it, the less users will use it.
I agree with that.
I posted a comment. Sorry, I
Go
posted
ahead, Toddy.
if we can go and actually really describe the use cases and what exactly we want to do with this, like enforcement. So what is, for example, if I want to do authentic timestamp, but not check for revocation, what exactly is that an option or not? Do I want to do authentic timestamp but enforce revocation? Why would I want to do that? Like, and so on. If we can describe these use cases first without like abstracting ourselves from what the proposals are, it will be much easier to make these decisions. Go ahead, Feynman.
Yeah, thanks, Toddy. Pritesh, maybe I can share another lesson that I learned from a user. We have been discussed that case, the OCI 1.1 concept and our design on options to choose OCI refers API or text schema, right? Sometimes we think that this is an flexible design for users, but users cannot get the idea of this option and the design. They might be quite hard to understand what is refers API and what is text schema. They only care about what has been signed and what does his tag, the user's tag, looks like in the registry. Sometimes we are over designing something in notation, which makes user feel very hard to use this tool with their feeling. So I'm thinking that we can keep things simpler at the first step, and then we can extend the capabilities and options if there are real user asks about this.
I agree. I mean, I'm just like, we probably could think, what if we don't add it and how can we add it in future? If we have answer yes for both the use case, then I agree that we can defer this whole skip for the vacation thing for timestamping to future.
So how about I think we actually have a third option. Can we let the implementation of this spec decide whether they want to skip the timestamp revocation? So that means we make no change in this version of the spec.
I mean, again, it will come down that discussion to notation, so I don't want to go in there. So ideally, it would be, let's answer the question that, okay, what happens if we don't do it, and with current design, can we do it in future or not? If with the question that, okay, if we don't do it and we can extend it in future, if the answer is to yes, then probably we can drop the support, and unless someone is actually requesting for it,
yes, we can
won't
do
need
it in
to
future.
add it.
It's edible. It's edible.
Then probably
yeah.
I like the Toddy's and Feynman's idea that let's not do it if nobody's asking for it. And if someone asks for it, we can anyway add this in future.
Sorry, Pradesh. I did not understand clearly. So actually, for this issue, yeah. So originally it was commented by you, right? There is this scenario, but what you just saying, it's not a use case now.
No, I'm saying yes, it is a use case, but we haven't seen ask for it, right? We
Okay,
know
so
that this is possible that might want to it, and both our solution which we discussed, will they allow us to add this in future? If the answer is yes, we can implement the solution in future. Right now, we don't need to implement it. Basically, we are deferring that decision to future based on the customer request or user request.
Okay, so okay, that's yeah, that's clarify the issue. So initially I think that you have a valid case from customer that they want to skip the timestamping revocation. But based on what
Try to interpret that. I had never talked to customers. I'm not saying there was a use case which is possible, which they might have, but I haven't heard from any one of them.
Okay. Yeah, so the conclusion is that we defer this issue for the future once we have a valid ask from customer, and at this moment we don't overload our trust policy, and we do not want to over design.
There's just one request here. Can we just verify that in both the cases it would be possible to edit in future without breaking the current experience, like with backward compatible fashion?
Sorry,
For
can you
example,
speak again?
like with both the options we have, will it be possible to add this in future without breaking customers?
Yes, it's edible.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
So the conclusion is that we do not include this issue for 1.2, right?
That's my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Any comments from other participants? So we will, for this issue, we will not include it in 1.2, and we will consider it in the future. And that also means that for the specification, we will not include it for the specification 1.1 release. Sorry, Pritesh. Okay, I saw your thumbs up. Okay. Then we got alignment on this issue. So
we
later I will,
will also we will not implement in the notation 1.2, right?
no.
Yeah.
We won't.
Because
No.
we defer.
So I will need to update the PR. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. By the way, since it's deferred, should we change the milestone?
Yes, for the specification, I think we can put in the future first. What do you think?
It's fine. 1.2 or future both works for me.
Yeah, I would like to put on future first, then when we comes to discuss the 1.2 scope, we can think about it. So I just select the feature. Okay, and this is for specification, and I think for notation, it's Quaggle, right? Patrick, do we have any other issue that related to this specification that we need to update the milestone?
You mean sorry, which report notation cargo or the spec?
Yeah, only the spec milestone we need to change, right? For the notation go, we don't have any issue related to it, right? Just the PR you need to update based on the specification, right?
Yeah, I think the spec is ready. So
Okay.
after today's discussion, the spec should be ready. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And you will close those PRs, right? The specification PRs.
Yes. Yes, we'll do.
Yeah, just to be clear. So those two PRs will be closed. And in the future, we may reopen
We
it
may
or
reopen
a
it
new one.
if
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, cool. We have 4 minutes, but I think I still want to discuss the second topic about this 1.2 scope. Pradesh, can you share some information about this? Because Wani couldn't join this meeting due to time.
Oh, yeah.
Time. Yeah.
Yeah, Vani, I think she's in India, so she wasn't able to join the meeting. So there was some reprioritization in our org, and we will no longer be able to prioritize the blob signing task. So the option we have is we can remove blob signing from 1.2 release.
So how about 1.3 or future release?
I don't have an answer for it right now.
Okay. So
for next couple of months, I know that it has been, there was reprioritization in the priorities. So I wasn't able to get anyone to work on blob signing.
yeah, so we plan to have the security audit in mid-September, and we plan to do it on 1.3 release. So it's I think September is 2 months, and based on the information that you shared, that the blob sign will not be audit as well, right?
That's correct. Yes. So now the current state of the change is we have library change ready. Almost everything is done there. We have specification merged. We only need to expose it via CLI. But yes,
but if we if we cannot, I mean, if blob sign will not be, I mean, for the notation will not be in the scope for 1.2, 1.3, I think we need to revoke those PRs related to blob sign as well. And also, right. And also, I think for the maybe for the Notary Project specification, we also need to revoke the blob sign specification.
Yeah,
and
for 1.2, yes.
Yeah, for the specification, the upcoming is 1.1 release. So I think we can revert those PRs related to blob sign and create a future branch for it. And in the future, if you are able to continue the implementation, we can start from that feature branch. I think the same case for notation Go library repository. We can revert those PRs from the main branch, but to create a feature branch for the blob sign. Okay, I saw your thumbs up. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm fine even if we don't want to create a feature branch, because there would be a revert commit. We can always revert the revert. So even if you don't want to create the branch, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I think for this details we can discuss later, but at least currently we are clear that for 1.2, 1.3, we will not have a blob sign, and we will revoke the PRs for both specification and the notation repository. Okay, and please update us if there are any other changes. Sorry, Pritesh.
I said you're fine by me. Yep.
Okay. We are just on time. I saw a new item was added. Is this from you, Cody?
It's from me, and it's a follow-up question from last meeting. Pritesh mentioned that you will confirm with Nias about the interest from AWS on project opportunities at KubeCon NA. So I'm not sure if there are any updates on this question.
I don't have it. Nias was out of office last week, so I have a meeting tomorrow, so I will get it back tomorrow end of day.
Yeah, there's a deadline in July, so if you are interested, I think you can keep an eye on that deadline.
Yeah. We'll ping you offline if I get any confirmation from you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pritesh.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so we end today's meeting. Thank you all for the discussion. Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.